the Franchise Ain't Dead podcast, we're going to talk about MLB the Show 23 and if they did really all the necessary things that made sense for scouting and drafting in MLB the Show 23. All right, we begin in the second season of a random 30-team control franchise. The draft lottery results are here. The Nationals stink. The Astros won the World Series, and all teams in between. First things first, I want to know if the CPU teams are even utilizing scouting. I've seen in some other franchise games some of the features that are implemented in it, and the CPU teams don't use it. They don't use it, or when they do use it, they seem to take advantage. I want to know if there's a nice balance between what the user might be doing and what the CPU teams might be doing. Now, I'm not going to draft for any of these teams. Probably just going to auto and all that stuff. The CPU teams will do their own thing, and we'll review said draft after all the picks are done. I'm not really as concerned about the signings, though. We will get to that, as time moves on. First things first, let's just simulate the draft lottery and see how things play out. I expect nothing wonky to happen here. You might see the occasional team move up a decent amount. Otherwise, teams move up maybe 1 spot, 2 spots, up or down. As you see, the Padres went from 13 to 4, as a couple other teams just moved down 1 notch. So nothing too crazy, but let's be honest. The MLB draft is a crapshoot, the biggest crapshoot in all of professional sports, just because of the minor league system. It is extremely rare that a player will go from being drafted to straight onto a major league roster. It's happened maybe a handful of times. I know the Los Angeles Angels just did that with an individual. Actually, according to this 2020 article, 23 players have done so. I know for a fact an Angels player literally got drafted in 23, and then they went from the draft to playing first base, if I remember correctly. There he is. Noah Shanuel. He didn't go straight from the draft to the majors, unlike 23 other players who do it, such as Garrett Crochet. He went from the draft in July, played 13 games, and then got called up to the majors. He really didn't play too badly at all either. 275, walked 20 times, 30 hits, 109 at bats. Pretty good, honestly. Will he make the major league roster next year? Who knows? The Angels are a shit show in of itself. All right, let's take a look at the Cubs. Turns out they have utilized every aspect of scouting. They've scouted individual position. They have, discovered new prospects, and they actually took on one dude to actually, look at. The less individual players you scout, in other words, if you don't have this set to 3 players or 2 players, if you have it just 1, you're able to hone in a lot more on how good that player actually is. And as you can see, he's 21 years old. They have stated to us that the younger the player is, so if they're 18 or 19, you're going to have a much wider range at which you may see the potential and or overall ratings. Guy wants $1.1 million. Not a lot of money considering they got 5.5 to play with. And this guy looks like he's going to be a defense first kind of catcher. He also plays left field. I don't know if that plays any role in, where they see him as terms of present and future. What they told us in the live stream almost a year ago, actually, was the future numbers are based on 5 years out in the distance because they base all of that on the depth chart. This chart here, which I have a decent amount of issues with because, for one, I have no control over it. I have some control. I can either trade a guy or just look at free agents who are there, which is really dumb. One thing I do like about the depth chart screen, at least upon the first page, is the fact that they do take into account that guys can play other positions. Edwin Rios has at least 4 positions he can play: left field, right field, third base, first base. He's all about the corners. DH, I'm going to presume, is basically based off whoever your next best hitter is that maybe can't field. They're not very clear on that. We aren't told, at least not from the CPU standpoint. As far as when we jump further years ahead, if a guy is in a contract year, they never assume they come back. Like literally, all these guys with the blue money signs next to them, they're all free agents. So if they don't sign, which they assume they don't, boom, they just move on to the next one. Of course, as you move 5 years out, you can't really attempt to project any free agents that'll come up, come to the team, or any players that get called up. Actually, you can assume players getting called up because they'll just pull guys from other positions. Or, guys like Reginald Preciado, who is, I don't know, 18 in the minors. So they don't even take him into they take him into consideration because he's next man up. Some of these other guys, when you get to 2028, they're all guys in the minors, all AAA players. A guy in a contract year, Jordan Holloway, who becomes a free agent at the end of 2028, as you see above my head, assuming he plays out all his renewal and arbitration years. I wish we would bring back morale, but I will touch on that in a completely different episode because I have a bunch of ways they can fix that. Right now, we're talking about scouting and drafting. As we were told, if you check off any of the positional needs, you get a little bit more interest from said player, which is a plus, but honestly, it's a way to game the system. Let's be honest. If I really hate how low a battery life these damn controllers have. It's ridiculous. Maybe calling it cheesy is a little much. It's only 1%, but to be honest, every 1% that you can get kind of matters as far as signing your draftees come late July and beginning of August. The scouts themselves are pretty general. They literally have taken a lot of the system that they had before, where each scout is, they're good at, they all have something to do with pitchers, position players, discovery, and efficiency, and took that and brought it over to 23. I wish it were a little or a lot more specific so that you aren't just out there when it comes time to sign scouts. I will get to later. You're not just like, just pick any old one or choose the best one like we used to do. Just fire all your terrible scouts and sign some good ones or great ones at that, and you pretty much are good to go. Though, in a lot of the MLB the shows that I've played, which I've literally played them all, I didn't ever really feel like I needed the scouts. Like, you could kind of figure out who is going to be good and who's not, especially considering if you literally just did it based off of potential, you pretty much were going to do a pretty damn good job. You may not end up with what we have now, our generational talents, which some people consider them just 99s. I consider it a little bit more rangy, where it could be anywhere from like a 95 to a 99. Because how often are you actually going to get a 95 potential player? For some reason, Brian Cameron here is scouting closers on the West Coast, which makes very little sense. He's very good discovery, 87. His efficiency is fine. If you want to grade these on a A through F scale or E or however people do failing grades now, you get the point. He's got an A in position player scouting. He's like a D with pitchers. I mean, back when I was in school, back when I was in high school, hell, even as I'm in college again, 65 is kind of, well, no, 65 in high school was you just passed. 65 in college is you done failed by like 2-3 points. Not even, no, 2 to 5 points, something like that. Nonetheless, like, he's fine at efficiency, but I don't think efficiency matters. If every scout is taking a week to do what they need to do their homework, then how much does the efficiency matter? From what I've seen, as you scout players, the higher their efficiency, the greater percentage of that scouted bar you'll end up with. So even if say they're a 99 in efficiency, but you have 3 players on there, that'll reduce that, but you'll still get a nice chunk every week. But if this were my team, Brian Cameron would be scouting position players. Though I don't think everybody can scout every position the exact same. Catcher is differently played than first base, is differently played from third base. Second base is similar to shortstop, but not quite. Center field is, I guess, technically different than playing either left or right field. You technically have more territory, though. If you add the foul territory, you guys are all kind of patrolling a similar chunk as one another. There's the traditional route where, you want your center fielder to really be one of your best athletes out there so that they can have that range. Think guys like Willie Mays, Ken Griffey Jr. in his prime, Andrew Jones. Let me try to think of somebody in the current day. I'm going to throw it out there. He's a free agent. Kevin Kiermaier, great defensive player. If I put Brian Cameron to scout closers, he should be, which this is not how the real draft is, but I get how you simplify it for MLB The Show. Especially for the casual franchise player. I'm hardcore. I want some things that I think a lot of people would never toggle on. But we'll get to that in another episode for this here podcast, because I gotta remember that this is also an audio podcast. So I'm trying to explain stuff as best I can. I will always implore you to go to my YouTube channel, State of the Franchise Gaming. That'll always be in the show notes, in the description, or wherever, because I've got this podcast on multiple different places. Hello, Xena. Why are you in my lap? It's my cat, or one of my 4 cats. But I'm not the one doing this. This is all the AI. This is all the CPU. The AI and CPU are not the same. You get what I'm saying. We can't say that interchangeably if we're going to be honest. I'm going to look at Ken Hendricks, who, let's see. They're just throwing guys out there wherever. He is great at discovery, so he should be discovering players. But he's a 74 position player, so his efficiency is, oh my goodness. I guess this is average. If you're anywhere in the 60s, 70s, you're fine. 80s, you're much better. 90s, you are spectacular. But why do you have him looking at position players, particularly infielders? Now, again, there's no differentiation. These guys don't have biases. They don't have, positions that they know better than others. So you kind of just got to go with what they got. Again, he should be looking at pitchers because that is what he does best. He'd probably be most efficient, though. Listen, his efficiency is kind of And we're going to look at Marlon Ojeda, who I've got to actually cancel his assignment before I do anything. So let's do that real quick. And very great efficiency, very good with pitchers, okay with position players, and as far as discovery is concerned, he's fine. Probably, I want to say the best all-around, most balanced of the 3. But from what I know about scouting, I don't know a ton. I know some people that are in Major League Baseball. I ain't spoke to a lot of them in a while. But what I know, scouts are looking at multiple players. You're scouting multiple players. You go to, you'll definitely have your times where you're going to look at one guy here, one guy there. But in the process of watching the game, you're definitely watching multiple players. I'd like to see that be the case as opposed to them all just taking on one guy. That might end up reverting us back to the old system, though. I don't know. Again, this was fine, but to have the AI splitting what guys are doing amongst what they don't even do best is ridiculous. It's early in scouting, but I got to address this. When they put up the stream as far as scouting, franchise, all that good stuff, what they failed to mention, and they don't mention at all, and I've yet to see anybody do an MLB The Show video on it. I mean, considering it's November, I don't expect anybody to do so, but there is no clarity as to what present or future mean specifically for pitchers. What does this 67 to 80 mean? I've looked up other players. I've drafted, looked through a draft, looked at one pitcher, tried to get an idea, and there's no clarity. I don't know if they're grading the pitch if you look at Billings' two-seam fastball, it's 67 to 80 at present. Does that mean he's average or at least pretty solidly good at with his two-seam fastball? And what are you basing that off of? Are you basing that off of velocity of the pitch? Are you basing it off of control of the pitch? He's got a nice breaking two-seam? Like, we have no idea. Hi, Zena. In the future, same thing. Like, what are they basing it off? They basing it off the top attribute? Like, there's not much to work with. On top of that, I am disappointed, but I guess I understand. When it comes to pitchers, and 2 years ago, you put Shohei Ohtani on the cover. Now, none of these pitchers are going to have a secondary position, ever. Not anywhere, just not anywhere. Not even as a reliever. You can end up, that's not two-way in any way, shape, or form. That's just, hey, this guy's willing to be a reliever also. Think John Smoltz. But you can't see hitting attributes for any of these guys at all. Like, what if, hypothetically speaking, Satchel Billings, and I'm going to talk about him again, they say his fielding is somewhere between a 13 and a 26. Granted, that's absolutely horrible. I could field better than that, and I'm 33. I ain't played baseball in ages. Not here nor there. Say you wanted to have him be a two-way player. At the very least, I mean, he can hit. You can put him out there to hit, but let's be honest, you're never going to put him on the field. Probably put him in DH. Just if he had the ability to field, he could, quote-unquote, do the two-way thing. Ohtani technically doesn't do that. I've been telling people this for years. Yes, he's a two-way player in the fact that he pitches and he hits, but he doesn't field, ever. And I understand that. You want to preserve, he's on his second UCL injury of his career. Remember the last one happened in 2019. And in 2020 he missed, was it 2020? Yeah, 2020 he played, but no, sorry, 2019 his UCL got jacked up. He continued to play the rest of that season, and in 2020 he didn't pitch at all. So 21, MVP, and let's be honest, in the next week he's more than likely going to win the American League MVP for the second time in 3 years. I felt it was really disrespectful to put Shohei Ohtani on the cover of 22 and then not be able to play like him. And then you wait the year after to say that you can play like him, and you can't create anybody to be like him. And granted, the man is called the unicorn for a reason. There have only been a handful of two-way type players at any point in time in baseball history. Obviously, Babe Ruth. Rick Ankiel probably could have pulled it off if he didn't get the yips. John Olerud was famous for being, he pitched very well and got drafted and went straight from the draft to the majors. I think he really could have pulled off the two-way thing, but he got drafted back in the 80s. Oh boy, hold on. I am sorry. I had to look at Baseball Reference for a minute. You would think I look at that page so often, I would know John Olerud was drafted, was a good pitcher, played first base his entire career, but they never even bothered to pitch him, not even like age 36, but whatever. Again, you can't create two-way players. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Like, come on. I understand there's a major league rule, and I'm going to assume that is the case for the minor leagues. Also, hell, it might not even be the case. You probably could just do it without the 20 innings and I believe 20 games played stipulations, together in order for a player to be two-way. Anywho, let's simulate a couple weeks and see where teams are at as far as scouting is concerned. One thing I noticed in my own research, when you look back at the draft, depending on how old the player is, it tells you essentially how much initial scouting progress you're going to end up with. 18-year-old players, you initially start off with 5%. Same when they are 19, like a guy here, he also can be 5%. I've seen 8% for some guys. We got an 8% here at 20. I haven't put anybody on, selected any positions that I'm searching for. So these are just straight up. We got more 5% guys, 8% for a 20-year-old. Let's see. We got a 22-year-old, you get 10%. A lot of these make sense. 18-year-olds, they're in high school. You don't know a ton about them. There's so many different high schools out there that there's no way in hell you're going to know everything about everybody. So 5%, even that's generous. 19 and 20-year-olds, those guys are JUCO players. Those players are, college freshmen, maybe sophomores. Same thing with 20-year-olds. You'll end up with about the same thing, 8%. The 21-year-olds graduated from college, 4-year junior, 5th-year, well, not 5th-year senior, but you get the 5th-year seniors, your 22-year-olds, stuff like that. Your 4-year sophomores, which, how the hell you end up as a 4-year sophomore? Wait, who am I talking? I was like a 25-year-old senior. Anyways, not the point. And your 22s and 23-year-olds are more, you graduated, you are a 4-year senior, you're a grad student. You might have pushed through your program, got a dual major, dual master, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I think I get what I'm talking about. You will know more the older a player is, for the most part. So you're going to look in Reds territory. It's still week 2. They are looking for outfield in there. We got about 10 on the board. This scout is pretty solid, pretty damn good. 84 rating with position players. He should not be anywhere near, dude. Lane Kaiser is horrible all across the board. He probably should, I don't know, look at pictures or just write up a list of, just bring the lineup cards for everybody. Just bring the lineup cards. We'll figure out who to scout later. And Johnny Stewart, pretty good, solid, damn near great all across the board. He can scout pretty much whatever that team would want. They don't have any specific players, so can't really do any real breakdown. And I think I've done that enough with the Cubs. So, yeah, let's push forward. I'll be honest with you. I jumped into this with the assumption that CPU teams don't scout anybody. As you can see, they don't have anybody on the recently scouted. I don't know. They could have just strictly been discovering players, and it is what it is. Looking at positional needs, which I will move myself out the way. This is the Reds, 2024, nonetheless. They are bottom third of the league in most of these categories. All the outfield, first base, relief pitcher. Let's look at left field and see who they have scouted so far. They have the number 7 pick, and as far as I can see, they haven't touched any of these individuals at all. Yeah, they need left fielders. Maybe they found somebody who's a center fielder they could look at. All right, they got a couple guys in center, 100% scouted. Will they draft them? Who knows? Who really knows? 2 guys in center field. You would think they would look a little harder. They got a Henry Chavez here, who I didn't see on the board jumping into this. 3, that's 4 guys. Brian Seacrest, Daniel Vacker. Oh boy, Marchetti. I will be sure to look that up in the future. 84% interest. He's probably like an instant sign, and he looks like he's going to be a monster potential-wise. Overall, he's probably going to take a little bit before he gets called up, but the potential should be there. And not seeing much else. Oh, okay, they've got one guy here, Michael Hansen. He's roster fodder. And looking in right field, they've got Luis Juarez. Pretty damn good player. This is a solid guy you take. Listen, I don't know who else to take. Number 7 pick. They got him ranked 5th. Maybe if some other guys get taken off the board, they'll snatch him up. Pedro Tejeda, not really scouted much. So, and he's 18 years old, so the range, which behind my head, 63 to 94, he could be anywhere within that 31 point range. Also could be outside of that. Enos White, who seems to be very interested, just not very well scouted. All right, Reds might not have themselves a bad board. They got $11 million to play with. Take a look at the draft. We might as well stick with the Reds here, being as we know a little something about them. All right, it's draft time, and let's see where the picks may lay. Apparently, they have me in this as the Reds. I find that very weird. I mean, I can only pick for one team, and I'm not going to. I'm just going to let the CPU take care of that first pick, and the Nationals go with a starting pitcher who is 100% scouted. At least, I mean, at the number one pick, you should be drafting guys that are 100% scouted. That just makes sense. Oh boy, and here begins the problem. Jason Rodriguez is taken number 2. He ain't scouted. Why? Is it the potential says, yeah, take him, but it's wide ranging. The overall, I'm pretty sure teams would be more concerned with potential. 65 to 99, they could be anywhere, and he is injured, so at least you got that information. The Pirates also, actually, I really don't know if they even bothered to scout him. He 10% scouted, the number 3 pick, 66 to 99 potential, 40 to 73 overall. Obviously, he's a high school player, so you're not going to know anywhere near as much, but are these teams actually scouting? The devs also decided to tell us that the logic for AI teams was changed to where teams are not drafting relief pitchers or closing pitchers. I have seen in other drafts I run, teams take a closer number 1. They said the logic was right. For the most part, it is. Listen, 99% of teams are going to take they're going to take a starting pitcher over a reliever. I'd like to see it where everybody is just a pitcher. Everybody's a pitcher, and you put them where you want to, and then you go from there. The scouting is not exactly done, until, I don't know, maybe even when they're at the majors, wait, let me not jump too far ahead. I do have some things I want to get off my chest that I feel like MLB the Show franchise should, and listen, to be in their best interest to improve. But somehow, some way, we have avoided a reliever or closing pitcher being taken in the first round. The competitive balance round, they get taken. As a matter of fact, the first 2 picks, Cleveland took a closer, so did the Orioles, so did the D-backs, so did the Rockies. The Royals took a reliever, and the Pirates actually finished out the competitive balance round A with a first baseman. Again, if you have everybody just as pitcher and then you kind of figure out a way to see how well they do, which you have some of the things in place, and I don't know, I think we ended up with a more dynamic franchise mode, but you got to get the logic right. Now, taking a look at the percent scouted for a lot of these teams, most of them are extremely low, under 10%. They're either 5, 8, 10, or 100. There is no in between. Actually, there's very little in between. Number 16 pick was 25% scouted. They might have put him on the board very late. First round pick in a right fielder was 55% scouted. So I thought the CPU wasn't scouting. They are scouting. Just, I don't know, maybe not as much as I would have thought. Again, every team is different, so it's not like everybody has the same scouts or they're getting the same information like in previous years. But a ton of these guys are barely touched. We got a 65% guy here to 100, a couple picks back. I'm just looking through it, and I can almost safely say about 90% of these guys aren't scouted, which, is fine. You get to, once the top 100 go off the board, honestly, it's a crapshoot. I don't feel like the draft is deep enough. Again, you go past 100. I really don't feel like the draft is deep enough in this game. Of course, a lot of that has to do with the fact that A-ball is useless. We've had single A forever, and we've never been able to play it. I would hope that is the case come MLB the Show 24, because, well, for one, the rosters need more depth. At some point, Sony San Diego has to jump into some semblance of this generation. I've been playing MLB the Show since 2006, and a lot about the game has not changed much in terms of, as you can see to my over this way, I'm pointing right, point left, whatever. You know what I'm saying? AAA roster sizes are 28. We're currently capped at 26. Same thing with AA. And the funny thing is, you've heard some big time superstars or even just star players, guys in general who've played at the majors and have been sent down for rehab assignments. Those numbers do not affect roster sizes at either of those two levels. At least there's no real restriction, and they don't count. So you could have 28, you could have 29, you could have 30 guys down there. I'm going to address this more in things I want to see going forward for MLB The Show 24, 25, 26. Assuming that this game is moving away from the PS4, Xbox 360, I forget what the hell the Xbox ones are. I don't know why they didn't keep naming them by number. It would have made maybe a little bit more sense. I'm not at this point. I almost want to say get rid of A-ball if it's just gonna be nothing more but a placeholder. It's literally a waiting room. Because it's not like any of these players can actually, play it. It's not like they can play it at the A-ball level. I don't understand how they get better or worse when you have no games to play. Yeah, I gotta address this at another time. Anyway, A-ball, single A and high A both have some time restrictions as far as the players that are down there. Like they can't be at that level a specific amount. Two players or player coach, which I don't ever expect to see in the game. Two players cannot have more than 5 years of minor league experience. You take that down to rookie ball, they can't have more than 3 players with 4 years of minor league experience, and international rookie ball is no players with more than 4 years, with 4 or more years of minor league experience, which means kind of the incentive of, hey, either shit or get off the pot. Either you gonna play well for us to move you up, or bye. One thing the devs did tout as a feature was if a player did not get drafted, they ended up essentially recycling into the next draft class pool. I kind of thought that would have been the case in the previous iterations of the show, but that's not. Those players would essentially get wiped off the face of the earth, and you get a whole new crop of players. I bring up this tweet at State Franchise on Twitter or X, what the hell they call it. I call it Twitter because I've been on Twitter for like 15 years. Either way, I bring this up because in real life, unsigned players go back into the draft, pool. In-game unsigned players become free agents. Just because I draft a guy doesn't mean that they should automatically become free agents. But I don't think the devs, I don't know, maybe they felt like it would be too confusing for, hey, I drafted this guy, I should be able to sign him if he doesn't sign. It's not how it works. Like, I've tried it. I've tried to let a guy, I drafted a dude, matter of fact, it even shows it here. I drafted this guy, Thomas Bush. Twitter likes to, I imagine you can't arrange pictures how you want it. Drafted this guy, Thomas Bush, in a New York Yankees franchise. Deep potential, 50 overall, lefty pole hitter, right fielder from Georgia. Scouted him. Scouted him, didn't have much scouted on him, kind of just picked the dude, and unfortunately, I did not sign him. We couldn't come to agreement by the deadline. In real life, Kumar Rocker was going back and forth with the Mets, let's say 2 years ago, and they weren't able to come to an agreement because of the injury stuff, or because of an injury concern, which is the Mets' right. I would have thought they would have signed him anyway, but he wanted a lot of money and whatever. I mean, I'm pretty sure the current owner wouldn't have thought much of it and just said, all right, cool, it's an investment. You'll get better. You'll get healthier and be an asset for the team. But nonetheless, this was like the Will Pond's last thing they ever did before Cohen bought him out. Either way, I thought that maybe this Thomas Bush dude would end up in the 2028 draft. I forget what year this was. And no, he just sat in free agency the whole year. That's not how it works. Whether you're drafted, whether you are undrafted at all, sure, you should go back into the draft pool. That just makes all the sense in the world. I kind of was wondering whether I could do what I have done in other iterations of the show, is when the draft comes out, and guys get drafted, and then they don't, I don't know, the CPU teams just decide not to sign them. I just fill out, the back end of my minor league system with those guys. I'll sign 3, 4, 5, 6 pitchers and a catcher and this, that, and a third. Just fill in the back end, get a lot of the old guys out of there, or older guys that I know aren't going to become anything, and at least put guys in there with some upside due to having enough time to possibly get better. But, this is not the case for 23. There's one more thing I didn't mention. Actually, I might have mentioned it at the very beginning of the episode. We now don't have to worry about budget being weird, where it tells you how much you're making weekly, as opposed to you get a balance sheet like it used to be back in the day, where we can fix prices and yada 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 to, well, quote unquote, fix the prices. Yes, you can make your team earn a profit, but as far as budget is concerned, you've got your coaches. And we're just going to take a look at this Pirates team right now, paying $11.46 million for a manager, a hitting coach, a pitching coach, first and third base coach, and for some reason we don't have more coaches down in the minor levels because nobody cares about that. That doesn't matter at all. One manager takes over the entire franchise. Come on. I mean, we could at least do something with some of these other guys for hire, like put them in a position. Now, I'd like a complete overhaul of coaches, but again, I will talk about that in a completely different episode, other than these guys being pluses and minuses and random attribute. Maybe not random. I mean, there's specific categories that they are, I guess, pluses and minuses in, but I don't feel like it's enough. These don't feel like guys that matter or have any kind of impact on how the game is played. Maybe I'm thinking of this way too much in and out of the park baseball realm, which I will definitely take a look at out of the park baseball. I have 23, I don't have 24, but I think a lot of things are similar. Out of the park baseball does things great that MLB the Show doesn't, and vice versa, which it may be kind of obvious at this point, but you get what I'm trying to say. Again, the minors don't have coaches at all, so it's like, how do we know guys are getting better? Nonetheless, this is about the staff salary. When you take a look at scouts, you look across the entire league. Nobody, and I mean nobody, has enough money to sign anybody. Anybody. The lowest paid scout is $70,000 with no experience. I don't know who the hell. I don't know how he's making. Oh, you can't even see it. How he's making $70,000 straight out of wherever, college, I'm going to assume. It's beyond me. Not the point. I'm jealous. Nobody can afford this guy. Nobody. And there's nothing you really can do. Look, this team's got $3,000 left in their scouting budget. The Toronto Blue Jays. No. We need a way to allocate funds towards scouts. Now, I know that'll probably just end up in, to be honest, people are going to choose the system and just do what we used to do, and that's just sign the best scouts and just go from there, which, whatever. People are going to find a way, find their loopholes one way or another, and it is what it is. I'd like to see some more. As much as I don't like the idea of a cap, it probably needs to happen in the game, at least for staff. As far as players are concerned, I think a lot more of that should be based off of actually how much money is earned, but the devs would have to put back in some things and add in a lot more to have this be more like NBA 2K. NBA 2K, you can toggle on or off whether you want to be able to control where some of the money in the budget goes. Staffing, player salaries, that kind of thing. But that's a whole nother episode, not the point. Nonetheless, again, teams across this league, as unfortunately, you have to wait until somebody retires, really. Yeah, you got to wait till somebody retires before you can replace any of the scouts, which is very weird. Like, we can't extend anybody. Like, this guy looks really freaking good. Brad Chang, 67 efficiency, 95 rating with pitchers, discovery at 94. In position players, he's kind of 69, so he'll owe you one. There's literally nothing we can do about it. We got to wait for him to retire. We don't know who he is. These scouts don't get better or worse based off either the players and how they play or their own scouting ability. Because, I mean, listen, say you scout, let's just say Fernando Tatis Jr. I already know. Don't bring up the juice stuff. We already know. Say your team drafts this type of player and he turns out to be really freaking good. That should probably reflect well on, the scout. Am I thinking probably too far ahead on this kind of thing? Probably, but I mean, listen, I've been playing MLB the Show for 18 years, so I need something to be different. I need something to be dynamic. I can't change the budget. After you can turn budgets off, and you can't just keep spending, or at least they won't. I don't. At a certain point, you're not gonna be able to sign anybody. No real explanation. The max that you could sign anybody to a contract is still lower than what like 7 players in the league are actually making this year. You can't sign anybody to a $40 million contract. Aaron Judge, Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander, all those guys are making 40 mil. And Ohtani is about to come up on making at the very minimum 45. I'm gonna say 45. I think he can get 50 million a year. We're in the time of free agency right now on November 8th. I think he could get 50 million a year. Whether it's for 5 years, he can get 60 million. Maybe it's for 5 years with a whole bunch of clauses that might extend that out and yada yada, depending on where he goes, because we still have no idea where he's going. And I think he's going to take his sweet time, finding his next team. The Dodgers are in the running. I wouldn't in the least bit be surprised if after the past couple years with what a certain team not that far away from the Dodgers, the Giants, they may just be like, yo, we throwing all this money at him. We ain't got no free agents. We didn't sign Judge, despite the fact we offered him more than the Yankees did. Didn't sign Correa because his ankle is, I don't know, taped up with tissue paper and whatnot. And spit, probably the year before, I think they missed out on somebody. The biggest free agent they got thus far is Michael Conforto. He's fine. He's a fine player. I'm not crapping on him. I'm pretty sure the Giants are tired of missing out on free agents. They may throw absolutely everything at Ohtani just to get him. Oh, and they have a two-way type player. Actually, they have multiple. Reggie Crawford, who they drafted, I want to say a year ago. And in the 2023 draft, the Giants selected, I believe it was like the 14th pick. I got to remember his name. Here he is. Bryce Elridge. Right after the All-Star break, MLB The Show decided to do something they never did before. They added some of the first-round draft picks into the game. I think it was like the first 15, 18 players. But they notably omitted one. Bryce Elridge. He is a pitcher. He's a lefty pitcher. He's a righty pitcher. Bats left. 6'7", 223. Looks like a freaking monster. He's a two-way player. I feel like, understandably, that Sony San Diego decided, we don't know how to do this. Unless, I think if they went into some kind of debug mode or something, they could have put him in the game as a two-way player now. I don't know how the minors would have handled him. This was mainly a Diamond Dynasty thing, let's be honest. While he and some of the other draft picks were also a part of the live roster, I believe this was back in August, you couldn't play with him. Hell, he wasn't in the game. There are multiple players who were drafted both this year and last year who came in under the designation of a two-way player. It's time. Come on. Ohtani's been in the game, this is 6 years now? 6 years. We still can't get his two-way player right. We can't draft any two-way players. Creating them is a hassle. Hell, it's not even a hassle. It is a hassle due to the rule, but it's way more of a hassle in that you can't take a position player and make them a pitcher. On top of that, that means your pitching coach doesn't mean anything. hitting coach don't mean anything. Training doesn't mean anything. Training has never worked, but I will talk about that at a later point in time. Thank you for watching or listening to the Franchise Ain't Dead podcast, where, hell, I'm sure I've probably rambled on for far too long. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow this podcast wherever you catch it, whatever podcatcher you got this on, or, however you're getting this into your eardrums. I'll let y'all later. Peace out.